Book 4, Part 2. Try how the life of the good man suits thee, the life of him who is satisfied with his portion out of the whole, and satisfied with his own just acts and benevolent disposition. Hast thou seen those things? Look also at these. Do not disturb thyself. Make thyself all simplicity. Does anyone do wrong? It is to himself that he does the wrong. Has anything happened to thee? Well, out of the universe from the beginning, everything which happens has been apportioned and spun out to thee. In a word, thy life is short. Thou must turn to profit the present by the aid of reason and justice. Be sober in thy relaxation. Either it is a well-arranged universe, or chaos huddled together, but still a universe. But can a certain order subsist in thee, and disorder in the all? And this too, when all things are so separated and diffused and sympathetic. A black character, a womanish character, a stubborn character, bestial, childish, animal, stupid, counterfeit, scurrilous, fraudulent, tyrannical. If he is a stranger to the universe, who does not know what is in it, no less is he a stranger who does not happen what is going on in it. He is a runaway who flies from social reason. He is a blind who shuts the eyes of the understanding. He is poor who has need of another, and has not from himself all things which are useful for life. He is an abscess on the universe, who withdraws and separates himself from the reason of our common nature, through being displeased with the things which happen, for the same nature produces this, and has reduced thee too. He is a piece rent asunder from the state, who tears his own soul from that of reasonable animals, which is one. The one is a philosopher without a tunic, and the one without a book. He is another half naked. Bread I have not, he says, and I abide by reason. And I do not give the means of living out of my learning, I abide by my reason. Love the art, poor as it may be, which thou hasn't learned, and be content with it, and pass through the rest of life like one who has entrusted to the gods and his whole soul all that he has, making thyself neither the tyrant nor the slave of any man. Consider, for example, the times of Vespasian. Thou wilt see all these things, people marrying, bringing up children, sick, dying, warring, feasting, trafficking, cultivating the ground, flattering, obstinately arrogant, suspecting, plotting, wishing for some to die, grumbling about the present, loving, heaping up treasure, desiring consulship, kingly power. Well then, that life of these people no longer exists at all. Again, remove the times of Trajan. Again, all is the same, their life too is gone. In like manner, view also the other epochs of life and whole nations, and see how many after great effects soon fell, and were resolved into the elements. But chiefly thou shouldst think of those whom thou hast thyself known distracting themselves about idle things, neglecting to do what was in accordance with their proper constitution, to hold firmly to this and to be content with it. And herein is it is necessary to remember that the attention given to everything has its proper value and proportion. For thus thou wilt not be dissatisfied, if thou appliest thyself to smaller matters no further than it is fit. The words which were formerly familiar and now acquainted, so also the words which were formerly familiar are now antiquated, so also the names of those who were famed of old are now in a manner antiquated. Camillus, Cassio, Volsus, Leonatus, and a little after so also Scipio and Cato, then Augustus, then also Hadrian and Antonius. For all things soon pass away and become a mere tale, and complete oblivion soon bury them. And I say this of those who have shone in a wondrous way. For the rest, as soon as they have breathed out their breath, they are gone, and no man speaks of them. And to conclude the matter, what is even an eternal remembrance? A mere nothing. What then is that about which we ought to employ our serious pains? This one thing, thoughts just, and acts social, and words which never lie, and a disposition which gladly accepts all that happens, as necessarily as usual, as flowing from a principle and source of the same kind. Willingly give thyself up to Clotho, one of the Fates, allowing her to spin thy thread into whatever else she pleases. Everything is only for a day, both that which remembers and that which is remembered. Observe constantly all things take place by change, and accustom thyself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them. For everything that exists is in a matter the seed of which will be. But thou art thinking only of seeds which are cast into the earth or into a womb. But this is a very vulgar notion. Thou wilt soon die, and thou art not yet simple, not free from perturbations, nor without suspicion of being hurt by external things, nor kindly disposed towards all, nor durst thou yet place wisdom only in acting justly. Examine men's ruling principles, even those of the wise, what kinds of things they avoid, and what kind they pursue. What is evil to thee does not subsist in the ruling principle of another, nor yet in any turning and mutation of thy corporal covering. Where is it then? It is in that part of thee in which subsists the power of forming opinions about evil, in which subsists the power of forming opinions about evil. Let this power then not form such opinions, and all is well. And if that which is nearest to it, the poor body, is burnt, filled with matter and rottenness, nevertheless, let the part which forms opinions about these things be quiet, that is, let it judge that nothing is either bad or good, which can happen equally to the bad man and the good. For that which happens equally to him who lives contrary to nature, to him who lives according to nature, is neither according to nature nor contrary to nature. Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and observe how all things have reference to one perception, the perception of this one living thing, and how all things act with one movement, and how all things are cooperating causes of all things which exist. Observe, too, the continuous spinning of the thread and the contexture of the web. Thou art a little soul bearing about a corpse, as Epictetus used to say. It is no evil for things to undergo change, and no good for things to subsist in consequence of change. Time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream, for as soon as things have been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place, and this will be carried away too. Everything which happens is as familiar and well known as the rose in spring and the fruit in summer, for such is disease and death and calumny and treachery, and whatever else delights fools and vexes them. In the series of things, those which follows are always aptly fitted to those which have gone before, for this series is not like a mere enumeration of disjointed things, which has only a necessary sequence, but it is a rational connection, as all existing things are arranged together harmoniously. So the things which come into existence exhibit no mere succession, but a certain wonderful relationship. Always remember the saying of Heraclitus, that the death of earth is to become water, and the death of water is to become air, and the death of air is to become fire, and reversely. And think too of him who forgets whither the way leads, and that men quarrel with that with which they are most consistently in communication, the reason which governs the universe, and the things which daily meet with seem to them strange. And consider that we ought not to act and speak as if we were asleep, for even in sleep we seem to act and speak, and that we ought not, like children who learn from the parents, simply to act and speak as we have been taught. If any god told thee that thou shalt die tomorrow, or certainly on the day after tomorrow, thou wouldst not care much whether it was on the third day or on the morrow, unless thou was in the highest degree mean-spirited, for how small is the difference? So think it no greater to die after as many years as thou canst name rather than tomorrow. Think continually how many physicians are dead after often contracting their eyebrows over the sick, and how many astrologers after predicting with great pretensions the death of others, and how many philosophers after endless discourses on death and immortality, how many heroes after killing thousands, and how many tyrants who have used their power over men's lives with terrible insolence as if they were immortal, and how many cities are entirely dead, so to speak, Helios and Pompeii, and Herculean, and others innumerable. Add to all the reckoning on whom thou hast known, one after another. One man after burying another has been laid out dead, and another buries him, and all this in short time. To conclude, always observe how ephemeral and worthless human things are, and what was yesterday a little mucus tomorrow will be a mummy or ashes. Pass then through this little space of time conformably to nature, and end thy journey in content, just as olive leaves fall off when it is ripe, blessing nature who produces it, and thanking the tree on which it grew. Be like the promontory against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. Unhappy am I because this has happened to me. Not so, but happy am I, though this has happened to me, because I continue free from pain, neither crushed by the present nor fearing the fortune. For such a thing as this might not happen to every man, but every man would not have continued free from pain on such an occasion. Why then is that rather a misfortune than this a good fortune? And thus doest thou in all cases call that a man's misfortune, which is not a deviation from man's nature, And does a thing seem to thee to be a deviation from man's nature, when it is not contrary to the will of man's nature? Well, thou knowest the will of nature. Will then this which has happened prevent thee from being just, magnanimous, temperate, prudent, secure against inconsiderate opinions and falsehood? Will it prevent thee from having modesty, freedom, and everything else, by the presence of which man's nature obtains all that is in its own? Remember too, on every occasion which leads thee to vexation, to apply this principle, not that this is a misfortune, but that to bear it nobly is good fortune. It is a vulgar, but still a useful help towards contempt of death, to pass in review those who have tenaciously stuck to life. What more then have they gained than those who have died early? Certainly they lie in their tombs somewhere at last. Candius, Fabulus, Julianus, Lepidus, and any one else like them, who have carried out many to be buried, and then were carried out themselves. Although the interval is small between birth and death, and consider with how much trouble, and in company with what sort of people, and in what a feeble body this interval is laboriously passed. Do not then consider life a thing of any value. For look to its immensity of time behind thee, and to the time which before thee, another boundless space. In this infinity, then, what is the difference between him who lives 3 days and him who lives 3 generations? Always run to the short way, and the short way is the natural. Accordingly say and do everything in conformity with the soundest reason, for such a purpose frees a man from trouble and warfare and all artifice and unsatiable display.